Hey guys, Teresa here. Welcome back to my channel, Lost My Thread. Today I want to share everything I made in the month of January. I've decided this year to include a little bit extra in my monthly makes videos. I will start off by talking about what I sewed like I always do, any works in progress. I will also be talking about any other crafty things that I get up to because I feel like I've done a lot this month and I have quite a lot of crafty things planned throughout the year that aren't necessarily sewing. I'm also then going to give just a general update about myself if there's anything to share, and also an update on my 24 for 2024. I feel like a lot of those things are going to be happening gradually throughout the year, and I thought it would be fun just to keep you up to date with my progress. I will be including chapters as always down below, so feel free to skip around to different bits that you might be interested in. But let's get on with the sewing updates. I'm going to start with what I'm wearing. This is the Myosotis Dress by Deer and Doe. I first made this pattern a couple of years ago, really love the one that I made, but I had visions of making one in a lightweight corduroy fabric. I had it in my, I think it was my autumn or winter sewing plans in 2022, and at that time, so almost a year and a half ago now, I actually cut this out. So it's been sitting in a basket above my sewing stuff for a year and a half. I initially was very excited about the project, planned to make it up, and then as things happened, there were other projects that I was more excited about. It just got left to one side, and it got to the point where it was then warm weather coming. I really didn't want to make it. This year it was determined that I was going to make it. When the winter season was coming again this year, I knew I had to do it, and I am very happy that I've finally done it. Partly because I have a beautiful dress, but honestly, probably even more because I no longer have a project sitting there that's been cut out and waiting for me. I'm not somebody who tends to have a lot of works in progress, things partway through completion. I tend to start a project and finish a project, and so it's been really weighing on me, and it feels like a huge relief to have finally sewn this one up. Now, I will share that the inspiration I had, I actually still have saved on my phone. I was looking at the inspo photos today, and I feel like I really did nail my original idea. When I originally wanted to make this dress, the idea was I wanted a fitted bodice. Myosotis dress fits me really nicely in the bust, and I wanted these gathered skirt sections. I also wanted to have long sleeves though, so the Myosotis doesn't come with long sleeves. And I really like the idea of having a cuff on there. So I took the sleeve from the Byrdie Button Up Blouse by Pattern Scout. That is a shirt that I've really liked, that I've made before. And I could even make, there's like a Byrdie Button Up dress, but it's not as fitted in the bodice. So I really liked how fitted the Myosotis was. So I thought, let's just mash these two patterns up together. I also really wanted a full button down front. So the Myosotis just has a button down bodice section, and then the skirt is just gathered tiers. So I added the buttons all the way down the front of it, an easy hack to make. So it's more or less the Myosotis with some slight alterations. The fabric that I use is a stretch needle cord fabric that I got from Sew Me Sunshine. This doesn't need to be stretch fabric at all. It's really not stretching, it's just sitting on me. It just happens to be the fabric that I had, and stretch needle cord or needle cord in general tends to be a bit lighter weight. I feel like this is just such a great winter dress, which is exactly what I wanted. So this has a really nice collar detail up here, which I really do love. I will be adding pictures, obviously you'll be seeing it on me in full. I love this color. This is such a beautiful color, and I think it is a great color for me, this petrol blue color, but I have a strong aversion to making things for the top half of my body in this color because it is the exact color of the scrubs of my work. I've talked about this before, and I tell you, it doesn't really bother me because I think it's a beautiful color, but whenever I wear this color to work, especially on my top half, I get comments from people at work, and it's just annoying. People telling me it looks like I'm wearing scrubs, like I'm wearing a dress version of the scrubs. I felt like this would be different enough that I'm hoping to not gather any comments. Watch this space, I will let you know. But I feel like it is a really, truly beautiful winter dress. It is just warm enough because it's the corduroy without being too thick and bulky, being the lightweight needle cord fabric. I feel like in general, the fit is fantastic. I did end up going in and taking these darts in again. So this dress, I did size up on my first version. And I really did like the fit of my first version, but it was a lightweight cotton fabric. And I wasn't sure this time around. I didn't really want to go back to the size they recommended because I was using a thicker fabric. I felt like it might get too bulky. So I decided to keep with the size that I'd originally cut out. And I think it still just wasn't quite fitted enough in the bodice for what I wanted for the style, for the silhouette. So there are quite a lot of darts. There are darts going in from the side seam to the bust, but also from the waist up to the bust and in the waist at the back. So after I sewed it all together and I serged all the gathered tiers onto it together, I decided I really wasn't that happy with it. So I unpicked the waist seam at the front and at the back and the serged seam. So it was a whole thing to do. And I took in the front, I ended up taking in 1.5 inches in total. So 3/4 of an inch each side, 3 inches from the front, 2 inches from the back. This dress is not supposed to be necessarily super tight and fitted because you're supposed to be able to take it on and off over your head. But because I have buttons going down the whole front, I didn't need to. So yeah, I took in a whole heck of a lot to get the fit how I like it. In all honesty, I probably even still could take in a little bit. I still have a fair bit of space here, but I'm satisfied. It doesn't need to be super skin tight. I am generally happy with the shape and the fit that I have. I feel like it worked so well. My vision came together. It's really beautiful. I did actually want some gathering up in the sleeves. I'm kind of disappointed that I didn't. When I was looking at the Pattern Scout instructions, I didn't actually look at the top that I'd made using this pattern, but there was some gathering I saw in the instructions to put the sleeve head into the shoulder seam. And I thought, oh great, so there's gonna be some nice gathers there, but it's just there to ease it in, which I should have suspected. Anyway, no gathers here. I wouldn't have minded a little puff up here, but it's good. But I do have gathers on the sleeves, so I'll put in pictures because it's going to be quite awkward to show you. But I've got some nice gathers on the sleeves, and I really love the cuffs on this. This was the reason I picked this particular top. The cuffs are really beautiful. I love the 2 buttons on there. I feel like it's just really elevated and elegant. I feel like the whole look looks really beautiful. The length is absolutely perfect for me for a winter dress. So what I did was I used the normal sort of 1-tier length skirt, and then I added an additional tier onto the bottom, which is the length of the shorter 2-tiered skirt. I'll put in pictures of the pattern. You'll see there's 2 versions, and I basically took the bottom tier from one version, stuck it onto the bottom of the other to get it the length that I wanted, and I think it is absolutely perfect. I used buttons that I got from Liberty going down the front of this. I really love these buttons. I picked them out, again, over a year ago, 1.5 years ago, just because they're a little bit special. I feel like the colors go really well together, but on the top of the button, you'll see it slightly faded on the top, which is a really cool effect. So it kind of looks like the light is hitting it, but it also kind of looks like it's faded through wear and use. It just looks like a really cool button. Now, when you are putting buttons onto a garment, if you have 4 buttonholes, you have options of how you stitch that button in place. So you can make like an X, or you can even rotate, do a cross, or you can go from one side to the other, a whole box shape. But basically I decided to make 2 vertical lines putting these buttons in, which would kind of mimic the corduroy fabric. I don't think anyone's gonna notice that detail, but to me, it makes it a little bit more special. The cuffs, I had to use different buttons. So this is really annoying. I'm confident I bought 14 buttons. That was gonna be enough to do the whole dress and these 4 cuffs, or 4 buttons for the cuffs. When I pulled out my buttons after I'd done all the buttonholes, went to go stitch them on, I only had 13 of these same buttons that were on the dress, and I didn't want to have 1 button that was wrong. So I decided rather than having 1 button that was wrong somewhere, I would just make the ones on the cuffs a different button. I think they're still a beautiful button. I think I could have happily used just these instead, and it makes it a little bit interesting that the cuffs is a little different. My husband saw it and said, it looks like a design detail, which I love. He's a good man. You're definitely going to appreciate. He was complimenting my sleeves as well and my cuffs. He's a good man, definitely a good sewing husband if he's going to be complimenting my sewing and complimenting my choices. But I do feel like in general, I am really proud of how this one came together. It did feel really neat, nice and neat when everything came together. The corduroy is really nice and crisp, easy to work with. It's stretch corduroy, so it could have been a little bit temperamental, but honestly, it really wasn't too bad. This dress has pockets. I prefer to extend my pockets up to the waist seams. They're just meant to be little floppy side seam pockets, which I really don't like. So I've got my pockets extended up to the side, to the waist seam. However, I'm really annoyed with myself that I forgot to extend the depth of these pockets. These pockets are quite shallow. They don't go down very deep, which means that when I put things like my phone, say, in the pocket, it flops out, which is very annoying. Not what anybody wants for their pockets. So in all honesty, I think I'm probably gonna end up going in and just doing like a pocket extension, trimming off the bottom of the pocket bag and putting in a longer section. I don't mind having a seam in there. It's better than having a floppy pocket or an unhelpful shallow pocket. So if you do make the Myosotis dress, I thoroughly encourage you to deepen the bottom of that pocket below the opening before you sew it into place. And otherwise, honestly, I really can't fault this dress. I think it's beautiful. I'm really happy that I finally done it, and it was a good one to check off my list. And I've clearly been on a bit of a corduroy kick. I am generally a fan of corduroy, but winter is just such a corduroy season for me in my wardrobe. I love a textured solid. And this was the next thing I made. These are the Jude Jeans by Closet Core Patterns. This is my second version of these trousers. And I have made the best fitting pair of trousers I've ever worn in my life. These are fantastic. I cannot tell you how happy I am about these trousers in general. I love them, love them, love them. This fabric came from Sew Me Sunshine as well. I probably mentioned stretch needle cord. It is a khaki green color. I will say depending on the light, it looks more green or it looks more brown, but it is such a great neutral in my wardrobe. I'm trying to think, is there anything? I don't think there is a single top in my wardrobe that would not go with these trousers. It is so good. They are so good. The color and the style I feel like are just so perfect for everything, for like dressier or more dressed down, more casual. I feel like across the board these trousers are just perfect. I love the style of them. So these are very 70s style. There are different options for this pattern. I really love the patch pockets on the front. I think those are really cute and I think those look really nice on me, especially with the higher waist, which is what I prefer. So I've got a very high waist on these. I make the straight size 14, which is what's recommended for my size, but I do lengthen the rise by 1 inch just because I want it sitting at my natural waist, which tends to be a bit higher than average. But other than that, I made it really as described. There are two versions, so you can make a more more like a boot cut leg and a flared leg. I made the big flared leg style last time, but this time around I thought I would make the boot cut to make them a little bit more versatile, and I feel like they're absolutely perfect. I feel like I did a really good fly. I'm really impressed with my fly on this one. It's probably my best fly. Really good top stitching. Obviously on the corduroy you're not going to see it a whole ton, but I feel like it came together really nicely. Really happy with my button choice as well. It's a jeans button. I feel like the color complements it really well. It's like a gunmetal gray. I feel like it works really well. In general though, these trousers are honestly fantastic. I will be wearing these all the time. I have been wearing them pretty much since I made them. I usually try to wait until I wash things and share things and take photos, but these were just on my body straight away because they are so comfortable. I love the amount of stretch in these. The last version I made was actually a little bit too stretchy, and once I wear it, I will wear it say for like a couple of hours, they start to get a little bit too loose. That was from a stretch cotton twill I got from Minerva. This one I will say is just the perfect amount of stretch for these. They don't overstretch. They're just super comfortable in any position. I really love wearing these and I will definitely be making these again. The one difference I made from last time, I just took a slight wedge out of the back yoke because the other one was slightly gapey, and it is chef's kiss, perfection. Really love these jeans. I also want to talk to you guys about these 3 tops that I made. These are all recently been dyed using avocados, and I did make a video about the dyeing process and what that was like, which I'll put a link to if you haven't seen it if you're interested. But I really just want to talk to you guys about the sewing process of it today. So this first one is the Peppermint Wrap top designed by In the Folds. It's a free pattern from Peppermint magazine. This is a top that I've made before. This is a cotton double gauze fabric that I got from Sew Me Sunshine. It was originally a white, a kind of off-white color, but obviously it's been dyed so it's more peachy now. But this top I will say is absolutely beautiful. I love how it turned out. I did French seams on this one, which is a really nice finish. They do recommend using French seams for this one. It's a slightly more time, labor intensive process because of the French seams, but I do feel like it's worth it. I feel like this is gonna last me for years, especially with cotton double gauze, which frays really easily. I feel a little bit more secure that this one has got those French seams there. I put a fabric label in this one. It was a cotton label before I dyed it so that it would take the color of the dye. I also used cotton thread so that it would take the dye as well. So I feel like in general, this is just a really beautifully finished top. It's a great style. It's a great silhouette. The sizing I will say is generally really good. I did do a 1-inch full bust adjustment on this one, which is just standard for me, but I love where it crosses over. I love the fit and shape of this one. This is a big staple. The cropped top is absolutely perfect for my style at the moment. So that's definitely going to get a whole lot of wear. Next up is this Lemont top by Itch to Stitch. This was the first Lemont top that I made, but I did share one with you guys last month that I made since then. But this was the original, but I didn't show it to you before because I hadn't dyed it yet. So this is again the same cotton double gauze fabric, also stitched with cotton thread and a nice cotton label which has taken the dye, which is lovely. This top is just such a beautiful shape. I think it is especially amazing in this cotton double gauze fabric because it has a really wonderful poof to it. The fabric is already a little bit poofy, but then when you have all the nice gathering on the sleeves, it just makes it so lovely and voluminous. So this is definitely a more interesting construction for a pattern. There are princess seams going all the way from the front to the back, and that's what gives it the shape. This one comes with multiple bust cup sizes, so I did the fuller bust cup option and it fits me really beautifully. It's got a dolman sleeve, which can be a little bit tricky with fuller bust, so I really appreciate that there's a specific piece that is accommodating that. Yes, there is a bit of fabric. When I lift my arm, you can see that there's some bulk of fabric there, but it looks natural and nice when I put my arm down. It folds in the right places. I really do love this style. I love the volume on these sleeves. There's a nice gathering into, a small amount of gathering, I would say, into a cuff at the sleeve as well. I feel like it's a nice height, it's a nice depth. The sizing, I did mention this in my previous video, if you are needing to make between multiple sizes, which I definitely would do, rather than grading between sizes, because of the shapes of the pattern pieces, it really wouldn't be very easy to do that. There's a tutorial to grade out at the hip if that's what you need to do, or you can grade in equally depending on your body type. So I actually had to grade out a whole 4.5 inches at the hip compared to my bust size, and I feel like in general it worked beautifully well. I was a little bit cautious, a little bit nervous. I wasn't sure how it was going to come out, but they hold your hand throughout the whole process. I love how this top turned out. It is so beautiful, and I love it in this peachy color. The final one is this gable top. This is a Jennifer Lauren handmade top that I have made before. I mentioned this in my other video about the avocado dye. I had to actually piece together the sleeve because the fabric initially I didn't intend to make a long sleeve tee. I was going to make a tank top or a short sleeve top out of it, but this rib knit fabric came from Fabric Godmother. It's actually quite weighty and it's a little bit thicker and warmer than I was anticipating, and it seemed much more suited to a wintry top, so I decided to go ahead and make the gable top. There is a version of the gable top that has a cuff section at the end, so I basically just added an extension onto the 3/4 length sleeve to make it look like it has that extension. So I think it looks like it's an intentional design detail. Either way, it's a nice long sleeve top. The issue I will say with this one, because this rib knit fabric, it doesn't pull as easily. It can stretch quite a lot, but you really have to tug it to get it to stretch. I feel like it's generally a bit tighter across the bust than it's intended to be. I feel like you're supposed to have negative ease to allow it to pull, but it's not pulling as actively as my previous gable top. So I feel like the fit across the bust is not as good. I've got some creasing under the arm, so in general, I'm not as happy with the fit. I feel like it's still really pretty, and I wouldn't let that put me off. I don't think that's enough of an issue. But the one problem I will say with this, with the avocado dye, is it ended up quite blotchy to the point where it looks really odd on the chest. It's not very easy to get photos of it, but on the bust and on the sleeve in particular, it looks quite blotchy. So this one I'm not currently going to be wearing, but maybe as the dye wears off over time, I'll be able to wear it out and about. I'll certainly be wearing it at home though, because it's a beautiful top. It is a beautiful shape. I want to make more of this pattern in general, but probably with a fabric that has a little bit more easy stretch. I feel like it needs to be able to have that negative ease and pull across the bust to fit well. The next project to share with you guys is this. This is the Crystal Heart mug rug designed by Tamsin, Brave Little Buckaroo. I am so delighted with this little mug rug. So the idea of this is that you place it on your table when you are having tea, or I suppose you could have coffee, but it's a place to put your tea set so that you can lay everything out when you're having tea. I drink a lot of tea. I drink normally like black tea in the morning, but then I drink a lot of herbal tea throughout the day. It's usually loose tea, and I often make it in a little teapot that I have. So I have a tea set for one, so that when I really want to have a nice time where I'm just resting, relaxing, having good vibes, I get out my little tea set, and it makes it kind of more of a special occasion. Having this mug rug just tips it over the edge. So when I saw this pattern come out, I was really excited to try it. It seemed like a fun way to use up scraps because there are such tiny pieces in this. You have little 1-inch and 2-inch squares to create the full design. And all of these fabrics are fabric scraps. So I went through my scrap bin to see what I had in there that I thought would complement the tea set that I have. So I didn't want it to be like necessarily matching, but I wanted the colors to go well. And I felt like blue and orange was generally a good color scheme. I felt like the tones that I have would work quite well. And it's really fun to be able to look through this and see all the little past projects, so I know what all these fabrics came from. The back is maybe familiar. It is the same fabric that I'm wearing. So this is a stretch needlecord fabric, which is not ideal for quilting, I know, but it was just too pretty. I felt like that would be a really nice backing, and I am happy that I chose it. In general though, this has made my tea experience even more delightful. Tamsin did put a post on her Instagram that she had to get some nice cakes to just test out her mug rug when she made it, and I felt like I didn't want to let the side down, you know, be scientific, make sure that it works for its full function. Yes, I need to be able to have a cup of tea, but I also need to be able to have a cake with it. So I got myself a nice fancy cake from the local patisserie, and I have to say, this mug rug worked extremely well. It passed with flying colors, and I am so delighted every single time I use it. And sitting behind me is my only, I would say, true work in progress. This giant stack of fabric. This is the coat that I'm planning to make. So I did talk about this in my winter sewing plans, the Willow Wrap coat by Jennifer Lauren Handmade. I want to show you, here's a scrap of the fabric. So it's this really gorgeous boucle fabric, super duper soft poly boucle. This is just my test. I was making sure that the interfacing would stick on it because I wasn't quite sure if it would melt or something, but it all works perfectly well. It's a whole lot. A coat is a big project, like it's a physically large project, so all the pieces are really big. I also wasn't able to mark this fabric very easily, so I've got tailor tacks going into this, so it's been a beast to cut out and get the pieces ready. I am excited to get working on it. It's still, I think, very much wintry where I live until about March time, so I feel like whenever I make it, I will love it, and I will certainly have it for years to come. But it's all cut out, it's ready to go. It's just waiting for me to get around to doing all the interfacing, big bulky pieces of interfacing. The next thing I will share is an embroidery project. So it is still sewing, but we're getting more into the crafty realm. And this is from a kit that I got for Christmas by Imogen Melissa. It's to create embroidery that looks like coral reef. So she gives you a really wonderful tutorial, literally every single thing you need. You do not need to purchase anything other than maybe a pair of scissors. If you get the kit, you get the fabric, you get the embroidery hoop, you get all the beads, you get the needles that you need, and a really great tutorial. And this is what I've made. I think it looks so good. I really love the color, and I love that the orange pops so well against it. I definitely wanted to go with this kind of tealy color because I felt like it would be more like the sea. It was a fun project. There's so many details on there. I mean, I can't really talk through all of it. You don't really need me to. You get the idea. But what I wanted to do with this is display it in my sewing area. So I've had a blank space on this portion of the wall. Now, I don't know how much it's going to come across on the video. If you'll be able to, yeah, you can see it. Beautiful. It will be now in all of my sewing videos. You're going to see it there, but it is just a really fun thing. It brightens up my sewing space. I knew that I always wanted to hang something in that space. I feel like on this video it looks oddly framed, but I'll pop in a picture. You'll see that it looks perfectly framed for the space that it's in. Super fun project. Really recommend the Imogen Melissa bead kits. I have now really gotten quite excited about the idea of adding some beaded embroidery to other projects. So watch this space. It's going to be a little while, but I think you're going to see that creeping into my sewing at some stage. I have another fiber craft thing that I've been in the process of working on. So I got this punch needle kit. It makes a cushion, so there definitely is going to be some sewing related in the end. It's a punch needle kit to make this funky, colorful llama, and I've been actually making really good progress on it. I do have to take a lot of breaks, both with the embroidery kit and with this, which I'll talk about in a little while. But this is how we're looking. I think it looks fantastic. I haven't done much punch needle. I've made one punch needle thing before, which is right up there. And this one's a little bit more involved. So it has you punching from both sides of the fabric, and it also has you creating some longer loops. But it doesn't tell you how to make the longer loops, which is annoying. They tell you they have a YouTube video, which they do, but actually that doesn't tell you how to do that bit, which is the trickiest. But basically you punch the needle through and you have to hold on to the yarn as you pull it back again to make sure that you're picking how long it's going to be, and you have to consistently do that for all those loops. But yeah, there's some flatter areas, some more sort of bulky areas. I feel like it's going to be such a lovely tactile thing to have on my couch. There are options. You can either just make it a cushion as it is, or they do say that you can actually put fusible interfacing on the back just to make sure you secure it, which is what I will do because I don't really want these loops to pull out, because if you pull one portion of the loop, you can pull the whole thing apart, which I don't want to happen once I've made it. But I'll just show you guys, this is what the back looks like. So this is sort of more of the flatter side, but you can see there's kind of like, it's like a color by number type thing. And so that's how you know which color to put in which area. And I think it's super fun. It will be all filled in when it's complete. I have a little way to go, but it's been a really fun thing to just slowly chip away at. I have one other crafty thing to share that is not textile related. It is origami. And I got a book from the library to make some different things. I thought it'd be fun to play around with some origami this year. I will show you in order of difficulty because that was the order that I made them. I have done origami plenty of times throughout the years in my life. The first thing I wanted to do was just a really simple project though. So this is a kind of like a little game or a little trick. Depending on which way you have it up, if you tip it, oops, if you tip it forward, nothing will particularly happen. But if you have it the other way around, where the heavier part is on the top, it does a really satisfying roll. So I'm going to try and get it on camera. It's really fun and it makes the most amazing little noise when it rolls. It's probably not coming across, but it was a simple thing and a fun thing to make. I then made this box. So this is a box with two parts. So it does open up. This is the bottom and this is the top. And you create this out of 4 pieces of paper that then kind of interweave to each other, which was a really fun technique and cool to do. So it was definitely a slightly more involved, but a fairly simple project. And then similarly, I made this cool cube. So this is a 6-sided cube. Each of these have 2 pieces. This is 2 different pieces of paper and they all fold together and sort of interlock, and it's just a cute little fun thing to have made. And then the final thing that I made was this bear. I feel like he works better if I show you him standing up. I think he's pretty good. He looks like he's kind of looking around, trying to find some food. The reason I stopped with the bear is because when I was getting into this book, it starts talking about different techniques when you're doing origami and sort of different folds you need to know. And when it gets to the point where it's the bear, which is supposed to be like an intermediate type project, there is very little instructions, and a lot of the steps are actually like 3 or 4 steps at once, and there's just like a little, their type of arrow, you're supposed to know what that means, and then just like a little paragraph, like there's multiple things involved. You have to do a bit of this, a bit of that, and you kind of have to figure it out on your own. So I felt like being able to make this was quite an achievement, so I was happy that I was able to do it, but I felt like if that's the intermediate, I don't feel like I need to be going beyond it in this book. I probably will do some more origami at some point later on in the year, and I'm sure I will other times in my life, but that kind of scratched the itch and it was fun to be able to do. I feel like that leads really nicely into my 24 for 2024, but just before I get to that, I wanted to give a brief update about what's going on with my hand and my wrist. So for anyone who is not aware, I've been having problems with my ulnar nerve and also my cubital tunnel, so the nerve that connects to my pinky and my ring finger of my right hand. I'm right-handed, and I've seen a physiotherapist, I've had acupuncture, I've seen a different physiotherapist now who's more specialized on like musculoskeletal as opposed to hand, because basically nothing has been particularly helpful. The most helpful so far has been the musculoskeletal physiotherapist, who's been actually doing a bit of work around my neck because he suspects that it might be higher up on the nerve pathway that's actually causing the issue. I also have an appointment with a hand and wrist surgeon next week, so I will have a conversation with them about options, but basically I haven't made a whole lot of progress. I still am really struggling with a lot of activities when I use my hand. I use my wrist, particularly if I have to bend my arm for very long. All these crafty projects have been nice to have around because I really can't do any one of them for very long. Sewing is generally okay, but I still can't really use a rotary cutter. I tried using it for my little mini mug rug, and honestly, that was a challenge. I could only do like one little line at a time, and then I was like, okay, it's starting to get a little tender and I'd have to leave it. So I am not going to be doing too much rotary cutting just yet. Embroidery, when I was doing the beadwork, depending on how tight that embroidery was rather than the long loose beads, that was a lot more sore as well. So I just need to be aware that I'm not doing any hand sewing just yet. Quilting is definitely still out of the picture. I tried it, it is just a no-go at the moment. For me, it's just all about finding what I can do. And if I can do it for a little while and then come back to it, you know, do 10 minutes and then have a break, then I can slowly chip away at these projects, which is essentially what I've been up to. If you do not know what I'm talking about as far as my 24 for 2024, I'll put a link to the video where I explained about it. But basically, I've got a list of 24 things I'm hoping to do this year. Top of the list is to make a quilt for myself. So I'm not counting the mug rug that I made, which is technically a mini quilt. I do still want to make a full-size quilt for my bed. I've actually been talking with Sarah of Sew Sarah Sewed because she wants to make the same quilt as me. So we were thinking about doing a YouTube collaboration and maybe doing a quilt along. So let me know if you guys are interested in that. It will be later in the year though, because at the moment, like I said, I'm not able to use a rotary cutter because of my hand and my wrist. And I don't want to sew a quilt without a rotary cutter. So that's something to come later on. The second thing on my list is to sew with silk, and I've already bought some silk. Didn't take long, did it? I went fabric shopping with my friend Izzy in Gold Hawk Road, and I really was not planning to buy anything, but when I saw this fabric, I kind of just couldn't not get it. It's a really beautiful silk velvet. This color, I mean, hopefully you can see, it's very much like a two-tone, and it is velvet, so it has incredible drape and movement. It is really, really gorgeous. The color is just such a wonderful emerald green. My plan for this, I'm trying to get the light to show the gorgeous green color of this because I feel like it's making it look so dark. Okay, I think that's probably showing it a bit better. It's stunning, honestly. It is absolutely gorgeous. My plan is to make a dress for Christmas with this fabric. On Gold Hawk Road, if you're not familiar in London, it's definitely a place to haggle, and I managed to get this at a really good price. I paid £60 for 3 meters of silk velvet, which I think is very good going. It is honestly just such gorgeous quality. I am planning between now and Christmas to trial different dresses that I want to use for this fabric. So I'm not going to just cut straight into this fabric without knowing that I've got a pattern that works for me. So you will be seeing throughout the rest of the year, I'll be making various dresses in viscoses as a potential for what I might want to do with this fabric. But I have the fabric, so I'm halfway to sewing with silk. Number 9 is to have some fun with origami, and that gets to be the first thing that I cross off of my list. Beautiful, that is a good feeling. I've had some fun with origami. It doesn't mean that's over, but that was basically what I needed to do. Number 12 is to master making the perfect chai, which is like a masala chai, Indian tea. I'm a fan of it. I am not really in the process of going full on yet, but I've got 2 instant chais for Christmas that I want to just mention. One is like a liquid that you add to warm milk. This you can also froth the milk. I got a milk frother for Christmas, so I can make a chai latte with this one. It is on the sweeter side, but I will say this one is really pretty good for like a quick chai. But I also got more of an instant chai. It calls itself a chai latte, but it's definitely not latte. It's not frothy, but you just add water to it. And I will say, if you really just want to get something quick, this is a really good one. It is, I will say, more spicy, which I like, but there is a bit of like an artificial sugary aftertaste to it, which I don't love. But in general, for a quick and easy chai, these 2 are not bad. We'll see about when I get into the proper process. I'll keep you updated. Number 14 is 1 phone-free day per week. And I have to tell you guys, this has been one of the best things that I have chosen to do for myself in a long time. I am loving my phone-free days. It's really interesting because obviously you can choose to look at your phone less generally, but I feel like if I'm taking my phone around with me from room to room, I'm just more likely to pick it up and use it. And if I'm picking it up to say look something up on the internet, or I'm picking it up to put on a podcast, I'm just more likely to pick it up for other reasons as well. I've been really enjoying, I've kind of made like a rule basically, like today is phone free, and I tell my husband I'm not going to have my phone today. I literally don't pick it up to look at it throughout the day. And I've started to really look forward to those phone free days because basically it makes me more in the present moment. I'm loving that if I don't know something, I don't look it up. It's fine. I just don't know what it is, or I test my memory and finally figure out what it is. I'm loving that when I'm, say, sewing or crafting, and I don't necessarily also have to have a YouTube video on or a podcast that I'm listening to, it's made me more in the moment. Now, I made a video about increasing mindfulness in your sewing practice. This was probably like 2 years ago, this video, and it's been reminding me of that. And I rewatched that video recently and I'm really proud of that video. I know it's a niche thing and it's not for everybody, but I really encourage you guys to check that video out if it's anything you might be interested in, but basically how to make yourself more calm and relaxed in your sewing practice. I had a lot of really useful tips in there, but basically I've been more just myself and my craft when I don't have my phone, and that's felt really positive. It's felt really nice. And just in general, I've been finding that, I pick a book up more often to read because I've got the spare time here and there. And I really do encourage it. If you are tempted, give it a go. I feel like the first day felt a little bit annoying and weird because I wanted to look a recipe up on my phone, or I wanted to look something up. Use the computer. I'm allowed to use the computer. If I really want to go to the effort and turn it on, then that's fine. But I definitely am finding that I'm now looking forward to those phone-free days. And there's something exciting about knowing that I'm just going to be a little bit more removed from the world and more in my own space. And I love it. Number 16 was to read one of these R.H. Blythe haiku books per season. There's 4 books. They're generally aimed for different seasons. This first one I wanted to finish in the winter. I mean, I only started it in January and I'm pretty much done with it. So this book has been a delight. I've really been enjoying reading some haiku. I do love haiku. I'm going to put down in the description box some of my favorite haiku that I've read from this book. I thought it could be nice to share in case anybody's interested. And then similarly, number 17 was to reread the E. Cummings complete poems. I'm a huge fan of E. Cummings. He probably is my favorite poet, and I love his whole book. I love all of his poems, and I have gotten a decent portion of the way through this book. More than a 12th, which is what I needed to do in the month of January. So I'm definitely on track for finishing that this year. Again, I picked out a few highlights of poems that I particularly liked of his that I'll put down in the description box if you're a fan of poetry, if you're a fan of E. Cummings or you want to check it out. I will say that he is my favorite poet, and it's interesting reading those. I can just read and read and read and read those poems for ages. In my mind, I felt like I don't really like reading too much poetry at once. It can just be a bit much. But apparently, when you like something, time gets away from you, and I find I've been reading just absolute pages for, a good half an hour or an hour, and I've been loving it. Number 18 was to take 10 books out from the library. So I took the origami book out from the library. I also have a novel that I've started that I've taken out from the library. It's okay so far. Not sure that I love it, but I'm getting there with taking my books out from the library. 2 out of 10 is good. And number 19 is to go on regular walks, whatever the weather. That's definitely something that my husband and I have both been really wanting to do, and we've been finding ourselves making excuses to get out of the house. I will say probably more days than not, we will go out for some reason, go for a little walk, even if it's just a short walk. And I feel like it's been doing me a world of good. The rest of it, I will update you when there is stuff to update. I hope it was nice to get a little catch up with me. I hope it was interesting hearing a little bit more of what I've been getting up to apart from my sewing. As far as the sewing, I would love to hear what you think of my projects. If you have made the Myosotis dress, have you made it in a corduroy? Are you tempted to make it in a corduroy? I really do love how all of my sewing projects turned out this month. I feel like it was a really nice, successful one. Please do give me a like if you enjoyed the video today. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel if you want to see more videos, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!